Good day, everyone. Good evening to our friends in Asia. Good morning to our friends in America. On behalf of the Mobility Development Group and all of our members, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to our webinar. My name is Doug Martell. Thank you for joining us for the next in our series of topical webinars. Before we begin, just a couple of procedural reminders. Throughout the webinar, please provide your questions and comments in the chat box on your screen. Select the host and presenter so that our presenter Todd will see the questions. And time remaining, we'll answer as many questions as we can at the end. Any questions that we do not get to, we promise to answer in a personal email. You'll also be able to review today's presentation on our website at www.mobilitydg.org. So Todd, if you're ready, it's now my great pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker, Todd Cotts, Director of Product Management at Mosaik Solution. Todd joined Mosaik in 2014, and as Director of Product Management, he is responsible for delivering solutions to Mosaik's clients. Welcome, Todd, and thank you for being here today.
Hey, thank you, Doug, and thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the opportunity today to share some insights with you that I think will help you, regardless of where you are in the industry, with respect to making sure that the customers who rely on, mobile technology, whether it's cellular or Wi-Fi, have a great experience. And that's really going to be the gist of what we talk about today, as well as we'll talk about one of the solutions that we have launched to help companies, especially mobile network operators, identify areas of opportunity to improve the customer's experience on their mobile networks. Just a quick introduction, or continued introduction, if I may. Been in the industry for 15 years. I started out actually as a trainer in a call center for DirecTV. I think that's kind of in the industry now that AT&T and DirecTV have merged. That was a short stint. I then went to work for Sprint. I was at Sprint for 13 years, roughly 13 years, and during that time had a number of hats. I was out at the corporate headquarters in Overland Park, Kansas. Worked with multiple teams across the organization, including IT as well as network teams. And then went out to California, stayed with Sprint, went out to California and managed the prepaid brands, made sure that everything was ready to support from that standpoint. From a product standpoint, one of my biggest things that I did for them out there was bring their prepaid brands into the 4G world. So that was one of my big babies. And then not long after that, I went to work for Kyocera Communications there in San Diego. Those of you that are at San Diego are familiar with them, especially the Qualcomm group. And while there, I was in product management as well, and worked more on the GSM UMTS side of the house with respect to our clients. So, the reason why I wanted to share that is I think it provides some context around some of the things that I'll be sharing today and some of the background that has led us down this road. So with that said, I'm going to jump into the presentation. Really, the title says it all, right? So, we can talk a lot about networks, and us network guys, and those of us who have been in the industry a long time, would like to talk about, HSPA plus and CDMA and 4G and LTE and, all the other acronyms that go along with the technology and the infrastructure within our industry. But at the end of the day, the people that keep our industry going are the ones that use the mobile networks. They're the customers, whether they are consumer or whether they're enterprise. It's really both of them together that keep this industry going and that are the reasons why we're looking today at things like 5G for the near future. So, but at the end of the day, as I mentioned, it is these customers, right, the mobile customers that are the reason why we're here. And if they don't have a good experience on the mobile networks that they're connecting their smart devices to, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet, or even in some cases if it's a Wi-Fi connection via a cellular network, and they're using their laptops, whatever it is that they're using to connect to the networks, you know, the most important thing is to make sure that that connection is a great experience. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to get into some details. I'll talk about customer growth, customer demand within the mobile network arena. Then we'll also talk about expectation of these customers versus the experience of these customers, and then some of the things that we can do to identify what that experience is. So let's first talk about the mobile growth, the mobile customer growth and mobile customer demand within our industry today. Just some cool stats that I want to share with you. By 2020, and that's not that far away, right? 2020 used to sound like it was a long ways away, but in reality, 2020 is you know, 4 years away, right? You know, roughly 4 years away. By 2020, the world population will reach 7.7 billion people. Of that 7.7 billion people, 4.6 billion of those people will be mobile global subscribers, unique ones, right? So that each one of them will have their own unique subscription connecting to the network, right? And 70% of that global base by 2020 there will be of that 7.7 billion, excuse me, 70% will consist of mobile broadband connections of the global base. That's a lot of mobile broadband. So today's world, we all know that it's not just about you know, voice calls anymore. Matter of fact, voice is probably, while it depends on where you are, but more and more we're seeing the demand for data growing, right? And much of this conversation will be about that demand for data growth. So let's take a look here. When we talk about the global connections by technology, we all know that 2G is on its way out in many respects, but we're talking globally here. Within the United States, it's fairly much on its way out. You can see here just between 2009 and 2020, the growth of 3G, it reached its peak, but now we're seeing, you know, this incline in 4G expansion, very rapid expansion, by the way. Matter of fact, 4G expansion has happened more rapidly by far than the initial 3G expansion occurred, and as you can see, that's the case here. I threw 5G in here just because we're all starting to talk about it. 5G is going to be relevant, you know, as we move into next year, as things begin to solidify. That's certainly not the topic of this webinar today, but it is something that we need to realize is on the horizon, and it'll be added to this type of graph in the very near future. When we talk about global mobile broadband itself by population, by 2020, 63% of the global population will have access to mobile broadband. So you'll see that what will happen is we will continue to see this increase in demand. And here we see that global mobile data traffic itself, and this is, by the way, this is in PB measurements. So, and I put a little asterisk there to show, you know, I think everybody on here knows what PBB is, but it's a number that I can't even begin to comprehend, right? But by 2019, you're going to see 24.3 petabytes, and largely due to the advanced use of devices like smartphones and tablets, which because of their, you know, the data applications, especially like video streaming on mobile networks, is going to increase that demand exponentially. One of the things, as we all know, that's fueling the growth of this mobile data demand is on-demand video. And here you can see some of the things that are the predominant uses of data on mobile devices is really web data, you know, connecting to the web, file sharing, video, and audio streaming. And you can see the breakout here. The predictions are by 2019, obviously, video streaming continues to be the increasing amount of usage compared to the other types of uses or use cases for those using their mobile devices to connect to the networks. YouTube actually stated in October of 2014 that mobile devices generate 50% of their global traffic. And if you think about it, that's up from 41% in 2013. So it's growing, and it's growing rapidly. And as we know, that as this demand continues, it places a greater demand on the network, and it also places a greater demand on mobile network operators to make sure their customers are having a great experience. I want to switch real quick to MTM because it's just as relevant for mobile network operators that are moving into the MTM space. We know AT&T is heavily involved in the MTM space and continues to be. Other major network operators are moving into that space. But there are also MTM service providers themselves that are out there looking for what's the best network, what provides the best connection for my mobile network, my MTM device, so that I can make sure that the customers are using those MTM devices don't have interrupted service at any point. And so that me on the back end, if I'm like a John Deere, for example, and I've got MTM devices connected to my tractors, and some of my larger equipment, I want to keep track of it. I need to know that where that MTM device is or where those MTM devices are within those large pieces of equipment, that I can track them, that I don't lose them. And that requires a good solid connection, right, with the network. So you can see here, the number of global cellular MTM connections is going to reach about 1 billion by 2020. The fastest industry sectors for MTM are automotive, no surprise there, security, compliance, reporting, as well as utilities and health. And these are some of the fastest growing industries. So all of these sectors are relying on their M2M connections, right? Their customers need to have a great experience. And for their customers to have a great experience, they need to make sure that the network is providing a reliable connection. Again, the global growth of cellular MTM, these are connections in the millions by 2020. You can see the percentage change, 10% growth by 2020. Okay, now I want to get to the, kind of the gist of this, right? In the first part we were talking about, here's the demand, here's the picture, here's the state of our industry. Both from a consumer standpoint and from an enterprise standpoint, we can see the demand for data especially is expected to continue to grow significantly, right, compared to how it's grown in the past. But what it boils down to is what is the mobile customer's expectation, whether that customer is enterprise or consumer, compared to the mobile customer's experience. So let's take a look at this real quick. I want to share some facts with you. Before we do that, what I want to do is explain, kind of briefly define expectation versus experience. So expectation is just a belief, right? When we're talking about expectation from a consumer or the mobile customer standpoint, we're not talking about something they're looking forward to. They're not even thinking about it, right? Connecting our smart devices to the mobile networks today is like breathing air. It's something that we take for granted. We just expect to be there. We don't even think about it, right? So that's the expectation that customers have when they bring to the table. But what is the experience? Well, an experience is an event or a series of events that a mobile network customer participates in or lives through. And I think we all can talk about our own experiences, events, or series of events as mobile network customers over the years, right? Some positive, some not so positive, right? Some other, maybe absolutely negative. But this is what becomes the person's reality. So something I expect versus something I experience, that determines whether I end up as a mobile network customer happy, satisfied, delighted, or unhappy and angry, right? And that's really what we're going to talk about now is what is that expectation that customers have, and what is the actual experience, and how can we know the difference on our end, especially as mobile network operators or those within the industry that support mobile network operators, and be able to get some idea, at least some data that we can collect to help us then tackle the problem. So let's take a look here. I threw this together. This is actually using these maps here, using one of our solutions at Mosaik Solutions. It's not one that I'm going to be talking about today, but we have a solution, a software as a service solution called Map Elements, and you can go out to our website and learn more about it. Basically, I pulled these maps together using that software as a service. The one in the upper left-hand corner where it says places, I just selected a few places that we have as points of interest that you can place on the map and view it relative to coverage, mobile network coverage. But the point I want to make here is that what customers are doing, what mobile network customers are doing is they're going to places, right? They're not, whether that's at home, whether that's Starbucks, whether that's Barnes & Noble, whether that's the shopping mall, people are going to places. And it's not just about going to those places or being in those places and using their mobile network devices, their mobile devices on the network, but it's also how they get there, right? So how they get there could be by train, by bus, by plane, and if they have to sit in an airport and wait on an airplane. Transportation involves truckers. It involves transportation also involves the cars, right? The connected cars. So it's not just the places I go and connect to and stay connected with my mobile network device, but it's also how I get there, and it's also what's happening along the way, right? And then with respect to that, you think about coverage. So here's an actual coverage pattern. I've got it in gray because it didn't want to, call in any particular mobile network operator out or show or point it as being their coverage. But the point I'm trying to make here is that relative to the places, relative to how they get there or what's going on their way there, the coverage represents how we market the coverage, how mobile network operators market their coverage, tells the customer what they can expect. So if this is marketed LTE coverage, and I believe this one is, I don't recall right offhand, this is what a customer expects, right? When they go to these places and however they get there and while they're on their way, that's what they expect when they connect their devices. So the common denominator in all four of these is really the customer's expectation and their experience. I make these points here, right? Customers really don't care about, how well bits and bytes flow around the network. They're not thinking about that, right? It goes back to the point I made about, breathing air. They're not thinking about it. And to be honest with you, I don't sit down with a lot of regular customers. Now, those of us on this phone, we geek out about talking about DBM and bits and bytes and HSPA plus and RSRQ and packet loss and, all those types of things that affect the quality of the customer's experience, whether with the signal or with the throughput. But customers aren't thinking about that, right? They're not thinking, oh, well, I must be on HSPA plus right now, instead of LTE, or I must be on, HSPA because it's not as fast as it was a while ago, right? They're not thinking about that. All customers are thinking about is the latest YouTube video. Can I email my boss or get an email from my boss? What's the latest update on my Facebook page? Can I chat with a friend? Can I stream video? Can I stream my music? These are the things that customers are thinking about when they're using their mobile devices, and they're thinking about it no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing, no matter what time of day it is. They are thinking about their experience and not even thinking about it until it goes bad. But they're thinking about what they're doing, how they're connecting with their world. And they're doing it based on their expectation of the coverage that their service provider said that they would have. It's a nice little comment from Salesforce.com, some research that's out there from Salesforce.com. Mobility is indispensable in the digital age, and our mobile devices are portals through which we connect with everything and everyone. Well, that's kind of what I was just alluding to. So let's talk about two things here. I mentioned earlier we're talking about enterprise customers. We're talking about consumers as customers. According to a recent study, the largest percentage of smartphone owners describe their experience, if you would, with their phones in this way. 79% say, hey, it makes me productive. 77% say it makes me, happy. And the way I look at this is the mobile network operators, the service providers, those who make the devices, those who are responsible for how the devices connect and the quality of that connection with the network. we're all responsible for these experiences. Are my customers, are the customers using these mobile network devices to connect to the mobile networks, is their experience one that they can say, hey, this makes me feel productive? And productive just means I'm able to be creative, profitable, I'm able to be successful with my smart device connected to the network. For consumers where it's about being happy, you know, these are consumers that are looking forward to, you know, so they describe it this way: hey, it makes me pleased, I'm delighted, I'm satisfied, I'm proud of this. In other words, it leaves me smiling. Now, the opposite of this is what we don't want to happen in our industry, right? The opposite of this is what causes, you know, customers to become unhappy. As I mentioned earlier, expectation minus experience, it can either equal a happy customer, a productive customer, or one who's struggling to get that email out, or one who's having a hard time, you know, downloading a website, right, or using an app like Facebook. So these are experiences that we have to make sure that customers continue to have, because they expect to be productive and they expect to be happy. Another way to look at this is 85% of customers say that their smartphone, their mobile devices are central to their everyday life. 89% say it signifies connectivity to the world. It allows them to stay up to date with loved ones and social events. Again, we can see how the story here is about what customers expect and what they experience and how important that experience is relative to their expectation. And here's what customers are doing every day. Customers are spending on their tablets, they spend 3.1 hours a day using a tablet. For their phones, it's 3.3 hours. Tablets have obviously become a bigger part of our everyday life. Matter of fact, about 40% of people that travel today travel with more than one device, not just with a smartphone anymore. They've got a tablet. Their kid may have a tablet. You know, one of the kids has their own smartphone, and then, you know, along the journey, you've got, you know, somebody connecting through the Wi-Fi in the car over a cellular network from their laptop, right? So you got a lot going on. And here's what they're doing. On their tablet, 70% are doing online searching, 69% doing email, 57% are reading, and 40% are streaming videos and movies. Now, we all know that the tablet users are primarily in static places or stationary places, such as a physical brick-and-mortar location, or their home, or in a car, vehicle as a passenger, hopefully. With their phones, pretty much the same thing, flipped around a little bit. 91% are sending and receiving emails. 90% are sending text messages. It's a big thing now, especially out in California, where I lived and where some of you live today. You know, you can't text and drive. You can't talk and drive, right? So a lot of people are texting kind of undercover. 43% are reading, and 30% are watching videos and streaming movies. And those percentages are going to continue to go up, especially with videos and movies, as we saw earlier. So here's what basically defines the experience, especially when it comes to the data applications that we're using and how we're using our tablets and smartphones today on the network. And, you know, obviously these vary. Everybody kind of has their own, you know, ways to describe, you know, what you can do based on the download speed or downlink speed from the network. But this is a general idea of what you can experience, right? So if you get 1 to 4 megabytes per second downlink speed, you're pretty much going to be stuck to some basic email, some voice over the internet. Most websites will load, you know, and when I say most websites will load anymore, most websites have, you know, videos that are automatically playing as part of the ads or part of the, you know, a news service. Obviously, that's going to impact the speed. Most music streaming services will work. 4 to 6 megabytes per second is the minimum speed really required to stream video-rich apps. 6 to 10, you can do online gaming and some heavy, you know, video on demand. And that's only on one device. Obviously, as is the case in all of these, the more devices you have sharing a network connection, the more degraded that connection is going to become, right? 10 to 15 megabytes per second, you can do HD internet TV, and then 15 to 50 is, you know, hey, that's excellent. It's multiple devices on the network, especially if it's a Wi-Fi network, but you can do multiple devices on the network used at the same time without delays with those types of speeds. What this basically is telling us is that this is what customers expect. They've come to expect it. I can honestly tell you that if most customers are like me, they're not even thinking about 1 to 4 megabytes per second anymore, 4 to 6 megabytes per second, 6 to 10 megabytes per second. If they're pretty much not getting something that's, you know, 10 megabytes per second or faster, based on how they're using their smart devices, they're not having, in their opinion, a positive experience. So this is the difference between what they expect and what they actually experience, and it can determine whether or not we have a happy customer or an unhappy customer. And we all know that those things trickle down. So if I'm the mobile network operator, granted, you know, if they have a bad experience, the first thing that they're going to think about is, oh, it's my mobile network operator. I got to call my mobile network operator. And they'll complain and they'll get credits, and then you have the expense of, you know, the customer care center costs, which is significant. We know that a bad experience drives up cost, not only, you know, the cost of providing support, but it also drives up churn, which is certainly something that we don't want to happen today, especially in the United States or really anywhere where there are other competitors, and it's a very heavily competitive industry, and I don't have to tell anybody on this phone that. Everybody knows it. But it trickles down, right? So if they're having a problem or a bad experience with their connection to the network from their smart devices, that's not just going to hit the mobile network operator. It's going to come out on the device. People are going to complain about the device OEM. They're going to, you know, start to complain about, you know, the app. It affects everybody, and that's why we all have an ownership in making sure that the customer's experience meets their expectation. So as I've said before, people aren't connecting networks, right? At the end of the day, what they're connecting to are experiences. They're connecting to experiences with people. They're connecting to experiences with places, with things, with news, with games, with movies, and they're connecting to an experience with the applications that there are thousands of to select from today. But what happens when that connection is bad or they aren't able to connect at all? Here's a good example of what that looks like from our standpoint, from our viewpoint, right? So you have the LTE coverage expectation. This is when mobile customers view the network coverage. They expect to experience that network coverage wherever they go, and they expect it to support them whatever they're doing, right? And they expect it to be fast. Here you can see an actual. This is here in Memphis, which is where our corporate office is located. It's where I'm located right now. This is Memphis. This is a particular coverage. I won't, say who. It's not relevant. This is a particular coverage, marketed coverage for an operator. Okay. Now we did, and I'm going to be talking. This is a segue into something that we do here, a solution that we provide here. But we did a drive test, right? Now we all know it's one thing to say that there's LTE coverage in an area, and it's a whole different other thing to say, but here's what you're actually going to experience when you're driving or when you're, parked or when you're in an establishment and, you're still relying on your mobile network connection. Because when customers see mobile network coverage saying this is LTE, that they expect an LTE experience. And in the minds of customers, that LTE experience is kind of back to what I was talking about earlier. It's all those things that I just mentioned, and it's all the speed that goes with it, right? They expect an LTE experience. But you can see here that in this drive test that we did using our software as a service solution, the experience is not consistent with the expectation from a customer standpoint, right? I want to reiterate here that what we're talking about, again, is not about network guys thinking about the network, right? To be honest with you, that's their, network guys don't think about the networks necessarily from a customer's experience point of view, right? They think about the network from, is the antenna tilted right? Do we have enough antennas? Are we in the right location? Do we need another tower to support more antennas? I mean, they're thinking about infrastructure both on the outside and on the inside of the network. But customers, like I mentioned, aren't thinking about any of that. They're not thinking about a tower. They're not even, I notice them every day because that's our business, right? But customers aren't even thinking about towers. They're not even noticing towers. Matter of fact, customers don't even want to notice towers. That's why we have, towers that look like trees today. So, but what they do care about is their experience, and they don't even think about their experience until they have a bad one. And so you can see here that the customers that are in these particular areas, their signal strength varies, right? So that the connection of their device to the mobile network in this case varies. They may or may not experience anything negative as a result of that, but you can see here in one location where a throughput speed test was done, and we've got a downlink speed of 0.98, less than 1 megabyte per second, right? Clearly, this customer is going to have a hard time even doing basic email, much less, having any websites load, right? And we all know how frustrating that can be. So the question is, well, what do we do about it? What can be done about it? Well, one of the things that we've done is last year at CTIA, Mosaik Solutions launched a software as a service solution called Signal Insights. And basically, Signal Insights and how we position it is it allows you to analyze the performance of a network, whether cellular or Wi-Fi, from a customer's experience point of view. And the purpose is so that you can use that information then to then optimize that customer's experience wherever they are connecting to the network, at whatever time they're connecting to the network, and with whatever smart device they're using to connect to the network. So that's what I want to share a little bit with you today. There are a number of solutions out there, and I want to talk just a little bit about some of the variety of ways to go about doing this. But the most important thing I want to mention is that the thing about Signal Insights is that it's not an RF engineering analysis tool, right? It can be used by RF engineers, but the purpose of Signal Insights is not to be able to delve into the core of the network and, like other solutions that are out there today that we're not even trying to compete with. You have companies out there like JDSU and ASCOM that have these beast software and hardware solutions that pretty much limit you to just it's a one-man show or two people, and they go out with that one piece of equipment, right? Signal Insights is different because, again, we're not delving into the core of the network. We want to look at the metrics or the key performance indicators that matter when it comes to what the customer's actually experiencing when connected to the network. So here you can see Signal Insights is really about 4 things. It allows you to test, whether that's a drive test, a site survey, or even conducting an in-building evaluation or an in-building survey. It allows you to measure. So we're capturing signal and throughput quality KPIs. And it also allows you to visualize that data that's captured using graphs, charts, and maps within an analytics dashboard. And then the other things it will allow you to do is create some really cool reports in PDF format, as well as the complete, raw data dump into a CSV file. So what it boils down to is really, as a software as a solution, software as a service solution, it boils down to 2 things. It's an Android app, and it's a cloud-based analytics dashboard. The reason why we are using an Android app and collecting data through the Android API on any Android device with a current Android operating system is because of the scalability of it, right? and the ease of use of it. So with an Android app, you're able to put it on one device, 100 devices. You can put it on 10,000 devices if you wanted to, Android devices. So let's say if you're a mobile network operator and you wanted to, have this app on all your customers' devices so that you could, track the network or monitor the network or capture specific points in time when customers have a bad experience, those types of things. The scalability of an Android app allows you to do it in mass as opposed to having a very expensive, very heavy piece of equipment that, is pretty much limiting you to, one at a time, one place at a time. Here you can do, across the nation or the country if you wanted to, right? And then from the cloud-based analytics dashboard, you have this cool browser-based dashboard that can be, launched from any browser where you're collecting the data that's being collected on the app. You're collecting the data in this cloud-based database in the background, and you're able to visualize that data that's coming from the Android app near real time. And I'm going to show you some of those things. I'm not going to actually get into the application itself today. That's not the intent of this call. I'm just showing you some ideas, some things that you can do or think about doing or reach out to us to help you do when it comes to understanding the customer's experience compared to what they expect. So here's how it works. Basically, you have the Android app. It's a consumer device on a consumer device, and it's connected to the network that's associated with that consumer device and how that consumer device was configured. And it can operate. It can collect data either from a cellular or a Wi-Fi network. And you're looking at collecting metrics such as signal strength, throughput speed, latency, and frequency. I'll show you all that it does collect here in just a minute. It's gathered through the Android API, and it's sent near real time to a cloud-based database. The analytics dashboard via a subscription service, users can access the surveys that they conducted or the tests that they conducted. We call them surveys that they conducted from this analytics dashboard, and then as I mentioned, they can export it to a number of file formats. You can even export it to KML and view the data in Google Earth, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So I'm running, up close to the time, so I'm going to take the next, 3 to 4 minutes to just share with you a little bit about this solution, and then I want to make sure that I leave time open for some questions. With this solution, you can also sync up to 7 devices. That can be 7 different operator networks if you want. You can do some that are some different devices. You can do some that are testing cellular while some are connecting to Wi-Fi. The point is that when it's synchronized in this manner, it's allowing all the test data to be synced to a particular timestamp and particular locations. And you can see here in this case, it's using Bluetooth to synchronize these devices, and then the primary device becomes the one that sends the data collected from all the devices to the cloud-based database. As I mentioned to you, the data that we're collecting today includes, the network type. So if the connection is LTE or UMTS, whatever the technology is that the device is connected to while connected to the network, that's captured. We also capture network identification information such as the MCC, the MNC, the cell ID, and then signal connection KPIs. So we're looking at DBM, and then breakout by 3G and 4G connection quality, and also signal to noise ratio. We look at the downlink speeds, the uplink speeds. We also capture latency, packet loss, and jitter, so we look at throughput quality as well as speed. And then, as I mentioned, we also are looking, we capture information that is necessary for the big data to make sense, if you would, and that's the timestamp. You can also capture notes in the application, and it'll also track the number of samples that are collected. Now, we do have some additional KPIs that will be collected from the networks through the Android API. that will be coming out in the next few months. As I mentioned about the reports, here's an example of the CSV file, an example of the PDF report, and you can also, if you have a survey, you can also share that survey via email, or you can embed the link in a website or however you choose to use the information. Here's how you can view it in Google Earth. So once you export the data into a KML file, you're able to view it in Google Earth. This is an actual test that was conducted in Asia, I think. I don't remember exactly where, I don't know if it's Myanmar or where, but this is an actual drive test that was conducted and viewed in Google Earth. We have two modes. We have, of course, the outdoor mode. That's the mode where you conduct the drive test or the walk test. You can visualize the network type and signal strength, as I mentioned, and you're viewing it on a map as opposed to a floor plan, as we'll see in the indoor capabilities. And you're basically comparing the actual customer experience to their expectations based on the mobile network operator's marketed coverage. Here's what the outdoor survey looks like from the app standpoint. So you can see here it's the Android app and what it looks like, and then here is the map, with the location map within the analytics dashboard, where you can see the information is collected from both downlink and the signal strength. The indoor mode is something that we launched this year. It is new. Basically, it allows you to test cellular and Wi-Fi indoors by uploading an image of a floor plan or a photo of an area. You then go along using our Tap, Test, and Go feature, and you just tap the specific area that you want to conduct a test, and it will conduct both a signal test as well as a throughput test. And then that image with all the data collected on it is viewable within the analytics dashboards you see here. There's an actual indoor survey that was conducted in one of our shopping malls here. So you can see the app down here is running at the lower part of the screen, and then you can see the actual data that was captured using the Tap, Test, and Go feature at different points within the shopping mall. So wrapping it up, there are basically several ways that mobile network operators can use the data that's collected from Signal Insights. You can use the Signal Insights information to create improvement strategies internally, to benchmark your competition. You can use it also if there are some creative ways of using this, and that is maybe it's setting customers' expectations. Maybe it's saying, yeah, you might live where there's LTE coverage, but because of mountains or various topographical issues in the surroundings, or buildings for that matter, your signal is not going to be LTE expectation necessarily. It's just where we have that marketed coverage. Yes, you're covered, but because of these other circumstances or situations or environmental conditions, your downlink speed's not going to be great. We may have to work with you to get you, Mr. Customer, some other solution to help enhance your network connection. But setting customer expectations a lot of times can prevent, it can actually prevent extra frustration from a customer that has a bad experience compared to what they expected. For indoors, there's a number of things. We work with hotels. You can tell them to map the guest and customer experience, place their VIP customers in the better rooms based on whether they have Verizon or AT&T or whatever their carrier is. And then you can also share those results with the mobile network operators and the Wi-Fi service providers, saying, look, we need some work done here. We need DAS installed, or whatever the solution might be. And then finally, from machine to machine, Signal Insights can be used and is used today to determine what's the best network to support my MTM devices and my MTM services, and then identify the ideal locations indoors and outdoors for optimal connectivity for their machine to machine services. So I want to stop there. we have, just a few minutes left, and wanted to see if anybody on the call has any questions. It looks like we've lost a couple of people, but want to see if anybody has any questions. If you do have any questions, you can type them in. As mentioned at the beginning of the call, you can type them in, and I will respond to them. Joe, I see you have a question, but or I'm not sure that's a question. I don't see the question in my chat session. Kevin, do you have any idea?
Yeah, Todd, I just received it. I'll forward it to you.
Okay. Joe, that's a very good question. Do we capture the frequency? We do not capture the frequency. Unfortunately, the Android API, that is not a metric that is captured through the Android API. Wish we could. There are certainly solutions out there, and I know that, Joe, you're from Qualcomm, so I know you know about these solutions that are out there that are embedded, that allow you to, capture frequency metrics. I can think of Ascom, solutions that they have, for example, that will do that. We're simply limited to what the Android API will capture, and that's it. And that's why I mentioned, earlier on too, it's really not an RF engineering analysis tool. It's more so for MNOs or whoever to be able to go out there and if you would call it a spot check or a smell test, as we used to say in the industry, right? How's my network actually performing? And from a customer experience standpoint. And then once you identify those areas, be able to come up with strategies internally that would address solving those particular issues in that area. Good question.
So, Todd, if there are no further questions, I just want to thank you again for providing your very informative insights on managing complex networks.
Yeah, certainly.
And, go ahead, Todd.
I was going to say, certainly. I see Joe has another question about how we measure latency and packet loss. It's rather complicated for the discussion. I'm happy to take that, though, offline, Joe, and get you that answer. I'll work with Kevin and Doug to make sure you get that answer.
Thank you, Todd. And thank you again to everyone who joined us for our webinar today. The Mobility Development Group is your interactive forum for wireless industry experts to share best practices on technology, devices, apps and services, interoperability, roaming, and much, much more. If you're interested in membership, please visit our website. And finally, as we conclude, just a reminder of upcoming Mobility Development Group events. Please join us for our next webinar entitled Small Cells, presented by Tony Lutz of Qualcomm, coming soon. All of our members are invited to present webinars on topical wireless issues. If you're interested in presenting, please contact our marketing manager, Kevin Curry, at kcurry@mobilitydg.org. or you can contact us through our Contact Us link on our website at, again, www.mobilitydg.org. And the Mobility Development Group will present our Fall 2015 Mobility Summit in San Diego, hosted by Qualcomm. Please stay tuned. Invitations will be sent soon. Thank you again, Todd and Mosaik, and to all of our members and guests for taking time from your busy schedules to join us today. I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank you.